I'm finally getting down to doing the what I read in June. What I read in June, not January. It's June. Bit of a reading slump, and so I did manage to finish 4 books. So yeah, I listen. I've been watching videos where people are talking about like reading 30 books or more in June, and I'm like, I had a reading slump, so I barely managed to finish the 4 books that I was really excited about reading. So I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to, like, it's really bad to compare yourself to other readers, but I still do. But I still managed to finish 4 books that I was very excited about, so I'm still happy about that. The only thing I'm not happy about is that I still haven't been able to get into Sally Rooney's Normal People. I am so disappointed. I'm just not getting into it. I really want to, but it's just me and this book. We are not vibing. We are not on the same wavelength. I don't know where it is. It's just something about it. Just I don't know. I'm just not in the mood to read it. So, but as I said, I did manage to finish 4 books that I was very excited about. I have finished reading Terry Pratchett's 8 Discworld novel Guards. Still haven't done the review on it because, listen, I decided to wear a certain headdress or headgear while doing my reviews on the Nightwatch books, and I'm just waiting for that to arrive. So unfortunately there wasn't a Discworld novel video for June, but I mean that means there's gonna be 2 in July. So the 8th book is, I mean, you can tell from the cover there, the main subject matter is dragons. Now, Terry Pratchett was a very logical minded individual. Logic mattered to him, science mattered to him, considering that he co-authored several books called The Science of Discworld. I mean, you can tell that this man was very interested in how things actually worked. One of the most fun part about his characters in the Discworld novel is just how literal-minded people there are. And so when you keep that in mind, and then realize that he wrote a book about dragons in Ankh-Morpork, the biggest city on Discworld, and you get a very fun, sarcastic, what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with a P. Parody. It is a wonderful parody of this genre, and the main characters in this book, apart from a dragon, are the city guard, the Nightwatch, and in fantasy novels, particularly around, I believe, the time when this book came out. I believe it came out in 1989 is when it was first published. Guards in fantasy series tend to be cannon fodder, and this is where this is kind of the starting point that Pratchett took with his guard characters and faced it logically. So as I said, I still haven't done my review. I am still taking my time to take the notes, so hopefully that will be a good video. I am waiting on the headgear. So another book that I managed to finish was Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Ackroyd? I'm gonna say Ackroyd. Now this is one of the most famous Agatha Christie novels. This is about the murder of Roger Ackroyd, and it deals with blackmail, murder, and finding out obviously who the murderer is. But it's not. It is unique because it's told not from a usual point of view, so to speak. So this is one of Agatha Christie's more famous novels. Being a Poirot novel, most of them are pretty famous. But if you know, you know. I really don't want to spoil it because reading this is a joy. For me, unfortunately, I have been watching the TV series of Poirot, the Poirot TV series since I was a child. So unfortunately, most of the stories have been spoiled for me. When I'm reading the Poirot novels, it's not so much me finding out who the murderer is, it's remembering the storyline. And then just taking the time and the joy to find out how she wrote the story. And finding out how Agatha Christie wrote this story has been just a delight. It's a delight. So even though I knew what the story was, I knew what the plot was, and I knew who the murderer was, still finding out how, delight. Third book, I did manage to finish Susanna Clarke's Piranesi. I did. I hit a little bit of roadblock with this book because I stopped reading right at the point when it got really good, and I'm still like, why did I do that? I love this book. It is delight. It is a delightful read. Now the main reason I bought this book and read it was because of a bad review, where the reviewer talked about this book being confusing and how the author was a bad author because the reader could not comprehend what was happening, and if this is how millennial authors write, and I'm just gonna go get back to authors who know how to write. Meh. Like, they literally wrote ugh in a review, and if you write ugh in a review, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna judge you. But I have to thank that reviewer for that bad review, because that actually puts me over to buying this book, and I love this book. I love it. Now, for me personally, I know nothing about the original Piranesi. I have no idea who Piranesi was originally. It has something to do with Labyrinth. So, I'm ignorant in that regard. However, this book, I love it. If you are familiar with some magical theories about, well, how the world isn't the only world that exists, if you are familiar with theories about side worlds, how this world isn't the only version that exists. If you are somewhat familiar with that type of thinking, I cannot imagine that this book would be very confusing. The thing about this book isn't that you need to know about every vestibule or corridor or hallway. You just need to keep in mind that we are somewhat within the mind, but not quite. We are somewhat within the mind of a person who has forgotten who they are, don't know where they are, and think that they know what the world is. I'm not going to say anything more, but I love this book. It is very psychological, it is very honest, and it's sweet. And the last book that I read this past month, it was Jasper Fford's, I have no idea how to pronounce two F's, The Air Affair. So, I don't know how to explain this book. This is the first in... There are 3 sequels listed on the back here. Basically, this book is about a... Basically, she says... Do I know how to explain this book? This definitely takes place in a different timeline where history has happened differently. For one thing, the Crimean War has been taking place for over 130 years. Still not over. Wales is an independent country. My legs are falling asleep. Let's see, they brought back the Dodo and the Great Auk. They don't have airplanes, they have air balloons or airships. Time travel is a thing. Time anomalies are something that can happen and actually kill people. The main character's brother died in the Crimean War, and she is a war hero. He is a war complete opposite. He kind of was made the scapegoat. Her father is a renegade time cop thing who is going around changing history, presumably to something closer to what our history is. Our main character is herself a literary agent, because literature is basically religion within this world. A constant thread is that people arguing who actually wrote Shakespeare's plays. I mean, there's a lot of things happening in this book. Like, if the person who complained that Piranesi was confusing, really should pick up this book because this is confusing. There's so much happening in this book. You need such an extensive knowledge of British history, and I'm like, I'm Icelandic, I don't really know all that. I do know some things, but not all of them. And that's not even getting to the main villain. The main villain is a character who is untouchable. Like, for some reason, this guy, my legs are falling asleep, so I'm gonna be moving around a little bit, but this guy is literally named Hades. He knows. If you mention his name, he knows. He senses you mentioning his name. He can reach through solid objects. Video cameras, they do not pick him up. He survives being shot. The only thing, at the very end of this book, the only thing that can hurt him turns out to be silver. And I love this book. This is just... there was so much happening. Another character in this book is the main character's uncle, who is an eccentric, brilliant inventor who actually invents things that work. For example, a very important invention is a thing that makes it so that you can actually enter the books. And if you have the original manuscript of a book or a poem and you alter that original manuscript, you alter every single other version of the book. So when the villain gets his hands on the original manuscript of Jane Eyre, oh dear, Jane is in danger. But the thing I really liked about that part, now that doesn't happen until rather late on in the book. In this alternative timeline, their version of Jane Eyre actually has the original ending, or one of the potential endings that Bronte wrote, where Jane Eyre actually leaves with what's his name, Saint? Anyway, so yes, he leaves with that other guy, and the ending is completely different. Our main character actually alters the ending of Jane Eyre to be the ending that we know. So that is interesting. Basically, this book is way more confusing than Piranesi, and it has all the historical and and the literary allusions that I do know that normal people have. But this book is fun. That sounds so mean. But this book is fun. It is a lot to take in. I don't know if I can actually stomach the rest of this series, but I probably might. I just need a little time to recover. But this book is fun, and yeah. So these are the 4 books that I managed to finish in June. Way less than I was anticipating and expected to do, but hey, at least I read them. Now you're getting old when you can't kneel on the floor anymore. I actually just got dizzy from trying to get back up. Whew. But yeah, so yeah, I know I mentioned that other people have been reading like 30 books, and I'm like, yay! At least I read what I read, right? So yeah, thank you for watching this video with me. Join me in this little bit journey. I really hope I'm gonna manage to read a little bit more in July. There are so many books that I want to read, and I'm not reading them. Hopefully there's something else on this channel that you'll be interested in reading. Watching. My knees are killing me. I am old, so I'm gonna call it quit before my legs absolutely give up on me. So take care, and I'll see you later. Okay, bless.